What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wednesday night Mythic Conversations. As you can tell, my voice is still somewhat shot from this weekend, but I wouldn't have it any other way. We had a wonderful experience this weekend in New Jersey for LegionsCon for Mythic Week. I have a very special guest I'm going to bring on tonight, not only to help talk about this, but so I actually get to talk a little bit less, because as you can see, that's going to be helpful. So when I said I have a special guest tonight, I'm talking about Big Dub. I got to talk to Big Dub about LegionsCon, like post Mythic Week last year. So we thought that would be a fun tradition to do it again this year, but we're going to change it up a little bit. Instead of actually bringing on Big Dub virtually, Big Dub is actually here. So Big Dub, we're actually bringing him on live.
Physically
here.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
So this just the funny way that it worked out. After doing LegionsCon, you had a reason that you needed to actually be in New England. You needed to be in Boston, which is about an hour from my house. So it worked out well where you said, hey, what do you think about doing Mythic Conversations actually live and in person? Get to come over.
Yeah. I'm going in episode 201, right?
Yeah,
it's the start of something new. It should be a big one. Yeah.
George Reader is saying, squeeze it.
Yeah, squeeze it. Yeah, that's right. Squeeze it. Give him squeeze it, George. Blacksmith dioramas there, George. Looking for hidden gems. I have looked around plenty, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, so you got to spend some time. You got here this afternoon.
Yeah.
So before we get into the weekend, talk a little bit about your day. You came down, your first time here in Rhode Island.
Yes. So this is my 42nd state I've been to, and the family here has given me the full Rhode Island experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to look around the collection, and as a little treat for you all, Jeremy was kind enough to let me film the collection, which at some point that video will go out when I finally work my way back to Georgia, as I keep getting further and further away.
Yep.
But I got to look around and see everything. But then also we had coffee milk.
Yeah, you got some Rhode Island. I made you a true Rhode Island kind of cuisine. So first off, when you got here for lunch, I got you a Rhode Island bakery pizza.
Yes. Yeah, which was better than I anticipated, actually.
Yeah, it's similar to the House Seals with their tomato pie, where it's just kind of like basically a bakery breading with sauce on it. There's no visible cheese, but there's actually Parmesan mixed in.
Yeah,
but
the cheese. The crust was very good.
Yep, it is good.
Very good. So we had lunch. We had Rhode Island lunch, and we played with toys.
We played with toys,
as one does. I got to see Jeremy's LegionsCon hall.
Yep.
Which I don't remember my hall at this point. And then we had Dynamites. What's the name of the city?
Woonsocket.
Woonsocket.
Yep. So where I'm from here in Rhode Island, Northern Rhode Island and Woonsocket, it's, you describe it because I know what it is.
It is, the easiest way to understand it is a item like a sloppy Joe, and that is a kind of a saucy meat with peppers and some specific spices that I think a more complex flavor than the sloppy Joe, and on a really nice like a lobster roll type.
Yeah,
type
it's a nice bakery bun and stuff. Yeah, it's onions, peppers, sometimes celery. I didn't put celery in it today, but celery can often go.
That was a good choice.
Yeah, celery can often go in it as well.
Water.
And it's just cook it on the stove for a while, get it all nice and soft.
Yeah,
but you had that on a bun, and then
tater tots,
which are not Rhode Island, but they're tasty.
And then homemade whoopie pie.
Whoopie pies and coffee milk.
And coffee
the
milk.
official state drink of Rhode Island.
Coffee milk, and Jeremy is giving me some syrup to bring home.
Yeah.
Actually delicious. I think even stronger I might could have made it.
Yeah.
I did like that quite a bit.
Well, there you go. You'll have to mess with the recipe at home to
find the balance.
Exactly.
I asked Jeremy how much he put in. He's I squirted it.
Yeah,
just squirted it in.
Well, because there's directions on it, but that's what Rhode Islanders do. I mean, I don't drink much coffee milk. It's one of those things where I don't drink much milk. So when I'm trying to introduce someone to Rhode Island kind of stuff, that's when I tend to drink it. And Rhode Islanders just know how they prefer it. So it's just an eyeball type thing. They know how much to squirt in the bottom of the glass.
Maybe you could, I don't know, maybe almond. I wonder if it, no, I don't know. I don't know, maybe. I'm going to try it in coffee. Yeah. That is a thing that will happen, I think.
Coffee flavored coffee. Go figure.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that was great. I mean, I feel
so. Look,
a little taste of home.
Vern's on here. Cool minivan dad says, "You put me on coffee milk, Jeremy, and I love it." So I had this conversation about coffee milk at the studio a while ago, and we ordered some because they do actually sell it on Amazon. It's made here in Rhode Island. It's the Rhode Island State drink, but you can order it on Amazon. Weirdly. And we got some at the studio, and they all tried it, and they all loved it. But Vern, especially so, where like he's actually messaged me and said, "Hey, when you come, can you bring me some coffee milk?"
Well, you showed me a picture of the jug that will last until the end of time. It sounds like
no commando, bro. It is literally. You said, "Is it available in Florida?" It is only available in Rhode Island. Mike Massey's here, fellow Rhode Islander. Mike Massey's saying, guys, look up Autocrat or Eclipse. So I gave you Eclipse.
Oh, okay.
Autocrat is the more common one, but they're the same company. They're literally both owned by the Autocrat company. And there's actually a third one called Coffee Time. That's honestly my favorite, but it's hard to find.
Is there, if you did a blind taste test, would one be able to tell the difference between the three brands?
If you knew them, if you were like a Rhode Islander that really knew them, probably Autocrat is way sweeter.
Like that's not the one we had though.
No, we had Eclipse
in the middle of the road.
I think Eclipse is better.
Okay,
but someone said earlier, is this Mythic Conversations or Mythic Cooking? So we should probably.
We just had a lovely evening.
We have had a lovely evening, and I do thank you very much for spending not only tonight with me, but the whole week. So. This is your second year in a row getting the full Mythic Week experience, intern through Gcon, through all of LegionsCon. Obviously, your first year is just a bit overwhelming because you don't have a frame of reference for it.
Yeah.
Before we get into some of the specifics of reveals and talk through some of those, just some of your thoughts about the week in general.
Yeah, I think as a second year too, so I was comfortable with what the show was going to be, how it was laid out. Some of the things when you go to a show for first time, maybe somebody like me who's been to a bunch of shows, there's still this like, okay, what do I need to focus on? What do I need to prioritize? What am I trying to do? Pick up? Where are the lines going to be? How do I get my badge? A lot of that stuff was old hat now, even after just the second year. I think the people side, which, you're going to hear over and over again on everybody that talks about this show, was even more. I'm going to use the word overwhelming, but not at all in a bad way.
Yeah.
So many folks and so many folks that it was their first time ever at any show. Like I think Joe Gonzalez, it was first time at any show ever. First time at LegionsCon, first time at a show that the Horsemen are at, all these different things, including like a lot of our friends that we'll talk about that were there. I think that was cool. I mean, I got there Tuesday this time. And I feel bad in the aftermath, but I got there, I left at 3 a.m. or something like that. It was like 5 p.m. on Tuesday, been in the car the whole time. And right when I get there, like Curtis and Van and Jordan are like trying to hug me. I'm like, I really just need to unlock. I need to unpack the car. I will be here for hugs and talks.
Yep.
I just really, really need to. I'm tired.
Yeah.
And, but right away, like immediately, we were hanging out, having a good time. I'm glad I came on Tuesday. It gave me an opportunity to have breakfast with you early Wednesday before the madness.
Yeah, that was nice to start.
Yeah, kind of be grounded. It really, the lay of the land, being in a familiar place, being at the same hotel the second year, I think did help with a lot of that kind of stuff. So the intern this year, as opposed to last year where it was all brand new, this time it was, okay, I've done this. I can step away a little bit. I didn't necessarily stay with my group. I got to watch other people. I think that was a cool part. I got to see other people experience some of the things for the first time and be wide-eyed, and even the wall of legions, and watch everybody take their selfie with it instead of being the one going, oh, let me take a selfie. I got to see other people experience that joy. And that was a big part of this year's show for me too, was to see others, including having my sister with me, who see these things for the first time and have this realization of what this all is.
Well, you also had Robo for a good portion of the weekend. So, Robo being at the show, Robo Killa, he was a lot of fun to have there. And this was, a very immersive kind of experience for him, someone who is very well known, longtime toy collector and toy personality, but, only kind of on the outskirts of Legions, knows what it is, has known members of the studios for years, but really has never been a big Legions collector. But then you also had D Amazing with you as well, who kind of the exact opposite, very good friend of the studio, lots of Legions. We've done a bunch of reveals with D. Obviously, did the Ninian on Saturday and stuff, but he has never been to the actual studio. So besides your sister, you also had a couple that you were kind of chauffeuring around.
Helping shepherd along. I mean, when we took the tour with Jim, we kept getting yelled at by whoever was at the front of our group, because we're just meandering about in the back of this, oh, look at this. Here's a TV dinner from 1977. Here's the Rocky meet, or at least it appears to be the Rocky meet or some form of that. Hey, guys, y'all got to come on. And Robo kept saying, this is like we're in Indiana Jones. Like, we're going to find the treasure. And we were just amazed at seeing that stuff. And then we went out. We actually stepped outside, the three of us, and we're looking at the building. And from where that parking lot is, you can't see. I realized later, because Chris came out and helped us understand. I'm like, where were we? Because I don't see a third level from that parking lot. I didn't realize that we were gone far enough back that it's on the front side of the building. We went for a good 5 minutes. Like, was it just this little? It's
a bizarre area.
It's a really unusual building. It is very much like the TARDIS. You just keep going, and there's more, and there's more. That was, and I had chatted with Robo on my stream, and then he made he had the opportunity to come to LegionsCon. I wanted to make sure that he felt comfortable. Because it doesn't matter how well known you are anymore. It's a new thing, and I wanted him to feel comfortable. As simple as that.
I mean, one of the things I loved talking to him about was, as well known as he is, he shared with me that he's always been a little reluctant to jump into Legions, not only because it is such a deep line already and it feels intimidating, but, he shared that a lot of times in collecting groups and fandoms, there's gatekeeping. So somebody coming in, especially someone who's well known, but has never been in, there's almost that reaction to kind of push back and say, why are you here? Who are you? You're not one of us. And it was so heartwarming to hear him talk about how this was the exact opposite, how people were like, I mean, there was very much like a one of us. Like they were thrilled to be able to say, oh, awesome, you're here. Let's show you all this cool stuff. So, I mean, from intern through Gcon through the whole weekend, that's one of the things that, no surprise, warm community. Everyone seemed to be having a good time. The amount of smiling faces I saw, those 4 days, it's so rewarding. This was a fun time.
When you are a person that is known on the internet, whatever that may be defined as in a given group, you try to watch out for others because you recognize some of the things that sometimes are hard, right? You can get you don't get time to yourself sometimes. So this was Saturday night. It is like 2:30 in the morning, and I was going to drive Robo back to his hotel. I can tell we're both tired, and he is over at the case that has all the packaging, Necronominus and the All Stars. There's several friends talking to him. And I was with the pig. Me and the pig were hanging out. And I look over there and I'm like, I wonder if he's ready to go home. Like, it's late.
Yeah.
And I walk over there. And it is an exhaustive, deep conversation about each figure and where they are in the lore. And, I did a quick check of his eyes and he just was like, no, I'm good. And like, just kept learning. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go back over here and keep going. And that was, because it wasn't like I was worried somebody's just like, oh, Robo, how can I get famous on YouTube or whatever?
Yeah.
Nope. We were having a very long conversation about the children of Necronominus.
Yep.
And he was in it. He was like, oh, yeah. Oh, taking notes. And I was like, what a thing at 2:30 in the morning to see at a toy show like that.
And I mean, we're talking about Robo, this being his first time there, but I met so many people. Hopefully some of you might be in the chat tonight, that this was their first ever LegionsCon. I met a lot of people that this was their first con.
Yeah, first con at all.
That they were like, I've never been to something like this. And, that is super cool. To hear people talk about their first LegionsCon, because whenever I see somebody, right, I do my absolute best to, when someone stops me, to take a few moments to talk to them. And I always like to ask, where are you coming from? Because I like to know where they've traveled from. Goodness, a lot of international fans this year too. That was incredible to see.
Yeah, I see Elijah's there.
Elijah's in the chat. Yeah, but I mean, nothing against Elijah or Emil or Tomas. Like we've seen them before. Like they've, them coming. I don't want to say it's expected or old hat or anything like that, because it's always appreciated. But like they've come before. So those are the ones that I expect to see.
Yeah.
But then when I see them and so many more, it's like, goodness, like they're really the ones that kind of started this, Euro Legions guys and everything started, making this international trip for LegionsCon. But to see everybody else also now following suit, they're trailblazers, and it's cool.
I think it's interesting that I spent a lot of time with Emil and Tomas this weekend, and I don't think I knew that they didn't know each other until the first time they went to LegionsCon, and they actually don't even see each other through the year. They see each other at LegionsCon because they live far enough apart in the country that it's not a regular thing. I'm like, this is amazing that, and I know a similar with the Euro Legions guys that they met because of LegionsCon first.
Yep.
So it's not just this toy line, but it's people international willing to take a pilgrimage and happen to also meet another person taking a pilgrimage internationally.
Crazy.
Truly, it really is.
It is. So talking to a lot of those first timers, where are you from? It's your first LegionsCon, and I can't help but hit that stinger at the end. It's like, will we see you again next year? Because look, at the end of the day, the success of this show is very dependent on repeat visitors, and we understand that not everyone can come year in and year out. It is absolutely an investment and a sacrifice, but Joe and I from the beginning have always said that our goal is to make it so if you come to LegionsCon, you can't imagine not coming back.
Yeah.
And if you didn't come to LegionsCon and you see all the recaps and you see everything, you're like, I have to be there next year.
Yeah.
I have to be there. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that way. I mean, even after last year, I left knowing, okay, I will immediately secure time off and a hotel and such the moment that we can, because it's just, there's just too much, there's too much filling of the cup is the word I like to use, both from pure, do I want to acquire things, a hobby, a toy or whatever, new reveals, but more importantly, community, positivity, the people aspect, all of those good things.
Yeah.
That is just not, it's unique. It's not like things like their version, like we said, at PowerCon, you get a version of this.
Yeah.
At Toylanta, you get a version of this. But this is such a far-reaching. The tendrils of this are so far-reaching that it's really remarkable.
I think just on a practical level, there are some things that if Legions are your thing, LegionsCon is the place to go, because not only is it so focused on Legions, obviously Full Horseman Studios, but so many of the other exhibitors are, customizers, creators, diorama creators, whatever. There's so many people that are creating new things, new art within the periphery of mythos and Cosmerium and so forth. But on a very practical level with the Four Horsemen, there is no way we can do what we do at LegionsCon anywhere else. If you can't.
Yeah.
If you think about the physical space that we took up, the Four Horsemen figure fair, which we'll talk deeper about all of these, but the figure fair, you did a run-through video on that. That pop-up shop style experience takes a lot of room. For the pop-up shop and all of the storage, that was an entire one of their rentable rooms that were used just for that.
Yeah.
So to do that, and then we had the Armory experience, and then there's also all of the exhibits in the hallway. I mean, if you think about it, Thygar was in the shopping room, but we had 3 full-size statues because we did Scapular this year. We had 3 Cosmic Legions dioramas. We had a display case for the role-playing game, a display case with package samples of Necronominus and All-Star 6, a display case with the new wave, and then 2 display cases with the dragon.
Yeah.
There's no way that we could do that anywhere other than local.
A kind of medium-sized toy show, that would be all of the available space they'd have.
It would.
It'd be all of it. They'd have no vendors.
Well, even just on a practical level, the trucks that we rented to get there, we have a truck, and then we rented a really large truck. It was maybe 5 trips. With those,
I know.
Well, I should say it was 5 truckloads. It was 3 trips total, one of which only one of the trucks I think had to go. But even just from a practical standpoint, we would have to rent like a semi truck.
We had breakfast that morning, and then you said we're loading in now because there are things we want to make sure no one sees. Now we've all seen them, but there's things we don't want to see. And I didn't want to, be looking out. I went and did hung out with some friends. I was gone for like 7 hours. I came back and they were still loading a truck. I'm like, this is a full day. And the studio's just down the road a few minutes. Yeah. And hats off to the team. So all sides, right? So I want to shout out to the Terry Productions or whomever is the staff that makes sure the convention, to the hotel folks, and to the Horseman folks that, I asked Greg if he wanted to go to New York with us when we went on Monday. He's like, I'm just going to lay right here. That's what I'm going to do. I'm tired. I've been on my feet for 20 hours and hauling big things around. That's not easy, and still be able to have a smiling face, engage in the community, and not just go to your room and go to sleep because you're at work. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All the different staff.
Absolutely. So intern for a day, that's always a special experience. This year was crazy. I think some people snuck in actually. I feel like because we had our interns, and because this was our 25th anniversary, we invited a bunch of guests, a bunch of people that are doing shows and supporting the line. We really wanted to welcome it, but I think there ended up being a lot more people that were supposed to be there. So
it was very busy.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to be a little more in control of the ticketing for next year.
Yeah, there are certain ones I just didn't go in because I've done it. I'm letting someone else have a spot.
Too many.
It's too many.
But that's always a great experience.
But no one was complaining.
No one's complaining. No, it was a great experience, and we got to test out the Legion's Armory experience then. So before we start talking about the reveals, because we will talk about the new wave, and I even said this to you, that there's too much to cover.
Yeah.
If you think about this, like we're half an hour in, and we're just talking about the experience.
Talked about any of this.
We're talking about the weekend, just on a practical level, talking about the wave, talking about all the reveals and stuff. There's so much to cover. So we'll do our best to get through what we can tonight. But in turn, we did that Armory experience. We knew we were going to do that at the show as well. It was the thing I was most nervous about. We ironed out some of the kinks at Gcon, at Intern. And then I really feel like once we got to LegionsCon, it was smooth sailing. everyone who was involved in that experience just absolutely killed it. Joe and Greg doing that, Neil at the door, Sherry at the door, Adam checking people out. Everyone just did a great job, and it worked really smooth. The reaction I've seen so far for the Armory experience is overwhelmingly positive. We've got Dorklier in the chat saying Armory experience was amazing. I've got another one that I saw earlier saying, let's see, from Eduardo, Armory experience was excellent. The area looked amazing and was set up nicely. So talk to me a little bit about what your thoughts were on the Armory experience. Did it live up to your expectations for it?
Yeah. So, I mean, even when it was revealed, and we had talked about it some, I was like, okay, this in concept is awesome. It also has got a high potential to become a big bottleneck that everybody gets mad about because someone's up there being, indecisive or whatever the fill in the blank may be. But I think universally it was praised. And again, like other things, so a lot of my experiences will be from watching my sister, who didn't even know about this toy line, period, 6 months ago. And I think she's got 7 that she had built. And she's already used all the heads from the exclusives with the Armory stuff and created this army of different characters already from that. Simply, there was not a lot of tutorial needed. She's like, oh, I like this and like this. And I think that's a testament to it. The experience itself was a lot of fun to go. We talked about, I was helping shepherd around. Robo was like paralyzed by it. He's like, oh, which one do I want? Which one do I want? But then at the end, he was so happy with what he created, and he put it on Instagram. He's like, look at the thing I created at the Armory experience. And I think, what happens at LegionsCon often is you go out in the lobby and people are sitting there on the coffee tables in the lobby, ripping their toys apart and popping them. You brought that into an experience in the con. And I thought that was fantastic. And so everybody's in a rush to go, oh, and then I think it probably also helped the vendors because a lot of them had things that would work with those. Oh, I've got a cape, or I've got a head or a sword or whatever. That was really, really fun to watch. But as a relatively simple concept, again, tendril out into all these different ways. Without it being a bottleneck. By noontime, I think, on Saturday, you could walk right in.
Yeah, and because when we did the tickets, we wanted to try to manage the flow, having no idea how long things were going to take. So in the morning, we handed out tickets, and we were like 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9:15. We were trying to stagger it. But then we realized that the people that had been told 9:15 would come, and then there would be no one in line. There'd be no one going through the experience because everyone else we had told later times. So we started telling people, we were like, hey, if there's no one in line, just go and they'll get you right in. So then people started just going through it to the point that on Sunday, we just said, no tickets, just walk right up and do it, because it was a really steady flow. I mean, the popularity of the Four Horsemen figure fair with the mini and infantry, along with this, instead of there being, basically one popular line, we were able to split that across a couple.
Yeah. I mean, and it was to watch the interchangeability. So people would go into the figure fair, buy their stuff, and then they'd come exit, and then get in that line and then buy things to go with it. Yeah, I do think that did create a lot of excitement between the two different lines like that. And again, even the main Horseman Room line, by the middle of the day Saturday, the rest of the con, it was not too difficult to get in there if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was so happy with the way that worked. And I even had, so Steve Bisciotti reached out to me, just sent me a text message. And he said the Armory was so much more fun than I thought it was going to be. And he said he expected to maybe build 1 figure, and he ended up building like 4.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that went through it, they ended up enjoying it a lot more than they thought they would. Because
me included, because I just thought, oh, the green is really cool. I'm going to build some green. Or I'm going to build some red. And then I got there, I'm like, ooh. Because seeing the parts side by side, you're like, well, wait a second. And then suddenly you're like, oh, I've always wanted this or that. And now it's like, well, I'm going to have to go back through the line again, I believe, because I need to get some more.
So a couple logistical things to talk about with the Armory. So number one, we sold out of some of the parts. So there were some pieces that were more popular than others that went a little faster. But we do still have a bunch of pieces. So when we actually did this, like the logistics went into creating the Armory were super complex, because it wasn't like just ordering a figure, right? When you order a figure, you determine how many you want. With this, we had all these parts, and we had to determine not only how many did we want, but how does that trickle down into every part, and like how many of
distribution.
Each. You have to manage that distribution. But what I can tell you is there's enough parts to a certain number of figures, and we didn't sell out. So the plan is that probably early next year, in addition to having those 10 figures that are pre-boxed, we're going to sell some of these online.
Oh.
Now, we won't be able to do a configurator online. For logistical reasons, we just can't make that work. What we're going to do is it's probably going to be blind boxes. So it's probably going to be like, what you get is what you get. You'll get a full figure worth of parts that you can snap together, but you're not going to know exactly what it is you get. It's still a little premature to say exactly what that's going to look like. But as of right now, that's the plan. Number two, there will be an Armory experience next year at LegionsCon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it went so well. It was so well received that, we'll make a few changes, certainly. I saw someone earlier saying that having maybe 2 checkouts instead of 1 would make sense. Absolutely. Instead of 2 lines going down to 1 checkout, we'll probably do 2 checkouts there to help out. So we'll adjust little things like that. But we've already got some ideas for the builds for next year. We're already working on pulling those parts, because as crazy as it may sound, that process has to start. Now, that process actually started weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like weeks ago, we started looking at the parts and everything, because the life cycle that it takes to make sure it's here for next year it does take at least a full year.
Is it true? Was at one point, I feel like early in the iterative process, that we were going to assemble them there, and then you pivoted away from that, which I think was very wise, because that would have been a bit more complicated, because all of us were trying to find the hot water in our thing, because the getting the things in the torsos. But once you did it, boom, and now it's time to play.
At one point, the idea was that you actually assemble it at the table, and we just very quickly realized that that just wasn't feasible.
All these people with hair dryers in the middle of the convention.
It just wasn't feasible. And then we said, well, maybe we'll set up a table over to the side and they can build it there. But to your point, it was not necessary, because everyone kind of went into the lobby and just kind of did it there.
Yeah.
And it actually became a nice area, a nice thing that brought people together in that common space.
Yeah. I the first time I didn't take any packaging, because I'm like, I'm about to put this together right now and play with it. And then every other time Greg's like, you must take packaging. I don't want to clean all this up.
And I will point out, Daniel Douglas is saying, shout out to Kirby for the Armory app. I saw so many people come in with those printouts.
Yeah.
So they knew exactly what they were building. They were ready to go. That, without a doubt, helped speed it up. So,
and the whole, definitely Kirby, and the whole, thank you all for being prepared.
Yeah.
Because the thing that can ruin that is if no one's prepared. Yep. Everyone is taking 5 minutes. Then there's nothing you can do about it.
No, people were so good. They were so streamlined. So Kirby has a huge hand in that success. Kirby, unfortunately, couldn't make it to LegionsCon this year. So he was supposed to be an intern. He was supposed to be there. So we're going to send Kirby a little care package from all of us as a thank you for all of his hard work.
That's very good.
Bring a little LegionsCon to him.
It's very good.
So Commando Bro says, rookie question, is LegionsCon at the same place each year? Because as soon as tickets go on sale, I'll snag them. So I think it's worth just kind of talking before we get back to this year. So yes, Commando Bro, for the last 2 years, being last year and this year, LegionsCon was at the Hanover Marriott in Whippany, and we announced that we're going to be back there next year.
Yeah.
So November 8th and 9th, 2025, we'll be back at the Hanover Marriott.
November 5th for me.
Oh, November 5th. I was like,
5th through 12th.
Okay. But the show is the 8th and 9th.
Yes.
And tickets have not gone on sale yet. Room block is not opened up yet. That will be in the new year. We'll actually do that. We're going to take the rest of this year to kind of close out this show. But in the new year, we'll make the announcement for both of those. So if you're not following LegionsCon on Instagram, that's certainly the best way to do so to get all those announcements. But yes, rave reviews about that location. Both our attendees talking about how much they loved it, but I'm so proud to say that for the second year in a row, no incidents at that hotel. They loved us once again.
Good job, the whole
yeah, seriously, nothing but positive comments. Everyone talking about how much they love the crowd. So thank you, everyone who came to the show. Thank you for everything that you did to keep it positive.
Yeah. Very,
very much appreciated.
Yeah, it's a great venue. A lot of the little things that go unnoticed, but the amount of kind of casual hangout space is really important for a show like this, because everywhere you look, there's little pods of people talking all over that place, and so that I think that's really important. Yep. I love that we have our own themed lobby down by the convention area. So you want to chat by multiple dragons, help yourself. It's available. And again, the staff I think is really good. The restaurant, it's amazing that so many people never leave and basically only eat at that restaurant. Yeah. And it's really never that long away.
Nope.
You'll wait longer if you go into the city somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's hats off to the hotel and the support staff and you guys for working closely with the venue. Pay attention when the hotel blocks go up. You want to be in the hotel if you can. If you can afford it, certainly it's budgetary. And they don't charge you till you get there. Yep. So if you think you're going to go and you're committed to it, because it changes the experience. Even from my general con advice, even from the little things like I'm carrying this bag around, I can just go throw it in my room, and then I can go get more stuff, or I can take a break. I can sit down and not be around people. That's important for a lot of folks.
So, not to go there, but to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, to be able to actually go to your private bathroom for a little bit of privacy, that's a game changer right there.
Yep. Yeah. Because just generally, you become so engaged in that convention that all the things that we have to do as a human, get some water, eat, go to the bathroom, you just kind of forget about. And then it's been 6 hours, and you're like, okay, I really should go take care of some things. It's and it's the rates are. I mean, I know they're reasonable because when I extended on the other time, I was like, well, what if I wanted to go a day even further when it wasn't the block anymore?
Yep.
It's like $200 more a night just for a random day that isn't the hotel block. Yeah. It's very good. Appreciate the rates that you negotiate with the hotel too, because it makes it, I think, affordable for people that have turned to budget. I think it's reasonable.
One thing I will also point out that we announced today is that for those who either are non-attendees who missed out on the LegionsCon exclusives, or for people like my friend Matt who got some con exclusives and then got home and said, I didn't buy enough of that cosmic set, I need some more. We did announce today that they are available right now at Big Bad Toy Store. So in the past, we always had offered the LegionsCon exclusives. We actually would reserve some and not bring it to the show and reserve it for online sale through legionshop.com. Yeah. But we closed Legion Shop earlier this year. So a lot of people had asked what the new avenue was going to be to that. We knew the answer, but we wanted to wait till after the con to announce it. At the end of the day, Big Bad Toy Store is a big Four Horsemen supporter, as we all know, but they're also a partner with Fateri Productions, who runs LegionsCon. Fateri has done, a lot of shared kind of exclusive things. Some of his Toy Con exclusives are offered at Big Bad. So this just made a lot of sense. And, ultimately, they're $134.99 at Big Bad Toy Store, which in the past, Legion Shop would charge like $120, but Legion Shop didn't have the kind of shipping rates that Big Bad has. So they're actually working out to about the same, if not even cheaper on Big Bad. And, you know, ultimately, if you went to the con, you had to buy a ticket to get in.
Yeah.
So the cost of the ticket to get in, forgetting about hotel rooms and travel and food and all that, it's pretty much about the same.
Yeah.
So for a non-attendee to be able to get it, the con items for essentially con price plus badge, I think that's pretty good. We tried to keep it at that reasonable price to make it attractive. But this is super helpful because, I mean, literally, it's a very expensive show to run. The con exclusives help pay for the show, whether you're getting them at the show from us or whether you're not attendees who are getting them after. And they're super cool figures. So right on Big Bad Toy Store, they're on the homepage right now. You've got the Mythic set, the Gorich and Gaspar set. So you get that 2-pack. And there's also the Cosmic set, the Amazing Alien and Creature Creator. These are the same exact sets from the show, same packages, all the bonus items available at Big Bad Toy Store. They're taking pre-orders. They're going to ship from, they're actually at New Jersey. They're going to ship to Big Bad Toy Store soon, and they're saying arrival in December. So
Christmas presents.
Yeah, good Christmas presents.
Those boxes are packed with stuff too. I'm not, you know, we opened some up in the hotel room, and I even like looking at the display, the spread. When to have it in your hands, it's just a lot. And if you got a couple Armory figures, you got a whole bunch of heads that you can, if you want to, you know, change out. So
I think we lost the camera here.
Uh-oh.
So let's figure out what's going on with the camera.
Interpretive dance.
I know, huh? So tell you what, Dub. Wow. So can you guys actually still hear us and just not see us? Is that what's going on?
Maybe they still see the.
So they hear us but don't see us. So while I'm fixing this,
keep talking.
While I'm fixing this, let's start talking about the reveals a little bit.
Yeah.
So Gcon starts. Now, first off, that room was electric. That room.
Oh, good. I can't. So last year with Gcon, there was a lot of people there, but there were seats in the back.
Yeah.
And again, I last year, you know, I did things a little bit differently this year because of having been there. And so last year I did a lot of filming in Gcon of the crowd. But that also caused me to kind of miss quite a bit. So this year I wanted to watch Gcon. I didn't film it as much. So I was like, oh, I'll just come in the back and find a spot to sit down. No, I will not find a spot to sit down. It was wall to wall as that thing began.
Packed.
I mean, I felt bad that some of the people I was back at the back with. I'm like, well, I can see over most people sitting here, but you couldn't see.
Yeah, it was,
and it was. You could tell it was. Everybody was anticipating something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anniversary, you know, it certainly had done a lot of promotion to set this up.
Yep.
And it was electric in that room, truly. And it was early in the morning too. It was not. It was 10 or whatever time.
10 o'clock we start. So we started seating at like 9:45. And I mean, and I'll take this down now that we're back for a minute. But that show starts, and so we're backstage essentially. We're behind the curtains, and I see people file in, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is crazy the amount of people. And I say to Jim, like, go look, and Jim's like stunned. So we come around the corner and everyone's clapping and stuff. And I'm one of the first ones to get seated because I got to get everything ready. And then, you know, some of the memorable moments of Gcon, of LegionsCon as a whole for me, is Corn Boy coming around that corner and everyone clapping. And then Corn Boy, we always let him introduce the show. And we lost the kid. We just keep losing the camera.
So, camera is still at LegionsCon.
Yeah, the camera's still at LegionsCon. So I think what we're going to have to do is I think we're going to have to switch cameras to this one over here. Let's see. I think we're going to have to go to this camera over here. Slightly different angle because the regular camera is not working all of a sudden. It didn't make the trip back, apparently. But it's fine. We're all set. So Corn Boy starts introducing and he says, you know, welcome to Gcon 2024, 10-year anniversary. He can't even get Mythic Legions out, and he just starts crying. Just starts crying. And just overwhelmed with emotions. Cornboy missed everything last year. He was in the hospital. It was a very tough time for him, both personally and professionally, to not be there for that. So I think that in that moment, him being there, and just the accomplishment, everything went over him. And then what does the crowd do? They make it worse. They literally all stand up and start clapping for Cornboy. And I'm looking at Eric, and I'm an emotional guy to begin with. And I'm just like, we're like 30 seconds into the show, and we're crying.
And all of that probably is not necessarily coming through a live stream camera as much as it is in the room.
In the room, in the room.
The room was very full. It's just very full of energy, of emotion. That was a very special moment. And I mean, there's not much you can say about it. It just, when he choked up on that, and you could, to know all of the history, there's just so much in the pausing between the syllables. That is, for all of us, we should be proud to be a part of that feeling for any person, especially somebody special like that. Because everybody here, everybody watching this, everybody there has contributed in some form or fashion to that. And I think that's something to be proud of for everybody.
So to be a part of that was pretty special. And then we kick off the actual reveal special itself. So, I mean,
what I love, though, as emotional as it was, when he got to the word beast, it was beast!
Oh, yeah.
Like he was ready for that.
Oh, yeah. He recovered. It was ready to go. But it was a genuine moment of emotion. And I know without a doubt that a lot of fans, if they list their top 5 memories of the experience of Legions Week, that's going to be on the list for sure. So right out of the gate, this new wave, let's talk a little bit about Reign of the Beast. This new wave, it's obviously a flashback wave. So this is from the first age, but we wanted to do some different things. We wanted to bring in some new races, some new body styles. There was a lot to talk about. I mean, I've got Basilia up on screen here, which is where we started, but I'm happy to jump around and talk about different things. What were some of your, surprises with the new wave?
Honestly, I think the whole wave really did surprise me, because so much of it is different than what we've had a lot of. Familiar may not be the right word, but we've had a lot of, we kind of know what's coming generally because of the way the last several years have been, like the versus things, and you can kind of figure out generally, all right, we're going to have some vampires this time. The nature of what the beasts was very different. And then the colors and some of the inspirations, because we were getting into areas that we haven't seen as much of. But I think also like the nature of the engineering and how the figure is, because you look at this one, that doesn't look like a lot of the things that we've had so far. And I think that surprised me a little bit, just from the regard of, okay, we're starting to see new and different things in terms of fundamental things like engineering and articulation, but also I think color palettes and color choices, because what I learned when I started to put my things by faction, we talked about this recently, I never realized how the color palettes of some of these factions are very similar. Because when you have all dwarves with dwarves, you don't realize that this one dwarf really does match the rest of its faction. And so I thought that was fun. I mean, the thing that certainly surprised me the most was some of the size of how big they were. I don't know what I tried to really, really temper expectations broadly, and we'll talk about the big one when we get to the big one.
Sure.
So I didn't really have any expectation for this. I was like, I just want to see it happen. Like that. There was a lot of this last year. I wanted to film it happening. I wanted to provide a service to everyone. This year, I was like, I'm just going to take some of this in and see how I feel about it. And so, like, if you had told me that she was going to be the first one revealed, I don't know what I would have painted in my mind. But it wasn't this. And my first thought was, so this is Kaya's favorite faction, my daughter's favorite faction. She has the hoodie of it. I was like, I must get her video of this before it gets put in the case. And fortunately, like Jim was looking at me, I'm like, can I please take a video of this before you? And he let me video it, and I sent it to her. She's at school. I'm like, you gotta look at this right now. I'm getting her in trouble because I knew she'd love it. But it's like the tail and the nature of that. I mean, I don't know. This is I just wasn't expecting this. I don't know what I thought that she would be, but I didn't think this.
Color-wise, I love this, especially against the black background.
Yes.
You know, the as amazing as Trevor's environment shot is, and you know, looking at this environment shot here, it's wonderful, but the colors against that black pop so much. We would be remiss in not mentioning it's when we posted this, everyone was looking in the foreground at the character that's pictured there, which eventually became the next reveal. But I met so many people on Saturday after the Ninian drop that didn't realize that there's 2 Ninians in the back of that photo.
So clever. So I saw that someone grabbed that in the Cabal. And I am not a person that opens the comment section. I put videos on the internet. I've learned better than that. But in this one, I looked at the comment section, and it was interesting watching it. No, I'm pretty sure that shield is not the same shield that was revealed with this. So there's this debate. And then, of course, you had seeded it in the back of that diorama, which I didn't know either. And so, like Eric Miller, you actually walked up on us, and we didn't know if we weren't supposed to know. And he was like, "Did you know there's a figure in the diorama over there?" I'm like, "No, show me." And like we secretly walk over there, and then you walk up to us, and like we're this far away from it. They're like, "I want to go look in the back right there, but I don't want to be like, we found it." So that was fun to see, but not everybody saw that, certainly.
No. And those that did came up and asked, and kind of a little throwback, if you remember I
don't know where that is.
At IshCon, because at IshCon was the first time that we put up the Green Knight for the Armory. And everyone was like, what is that? And we said, every one of us all weekend said, I don't know what that is. I've never seen it before. I don't know how it got there. So that's what we were saying about the Ninian serpent character that was in the case. Also worth mentioning, we sold quite a few Ninians at LegionsCon, but it's only the first drop for those that are combing eBay right now and seeing crazy prices. We are going to sell this in early 25 at Store Horseman. It is an in-stock sale. It will be sold like Valiant Knight, but we're going to set some limits on it, so we hopefully don't get as rapid a sellout as Valiant Knight. I'm sure it's still going to go quickly, but hopefully it'll be a little bit. I think Valiant Knight was like 15 minutes. Hopefully, maybe we can get it a little bit more than that. But all of them are not out there. A very small percentage of them that were made are actually out in the market right now. So this is an early release. Another advantage of going to LegionsCon, getting some of this stuff a little earlier, but it's certainly not your only chance to do so.
It was fun too on Saturday. Again, seeing that kind of sweep over the con, like, there's a figure, got to go get in line, got to find it. Again, all day Saturday, you could have got it. You didn't have to wait in that initial line. It was available all through the day. Saturday.
Yes, it's so. Cookie reminds me, the first 17. So that was Valiant Knight sold out in 17 minutes. So they were joking at the studio about the first 17 because it took them quite some time just to ship, because they said, let's ship we're going to start with orders that include a Valiant Knight just to get them out. And it took so long to get out just those orders. So that's what they kept saying when people were like, how's shipping going? They kept saying, we're still in the first 17. That was kind of a phrase at the studio. So love the calls with Basilia. Someone said earlier that, this entire wave seemed kind of like out of left field curveball in the best way possible. And that's kind of what we wanted to go for. After, wanting to do reptilian characters, to get 2 in this wave plus the Ninian, that really felt like a nice way to introduce that.
It's a first era, first age, things in just like us. Colors and the colors that are used evolve over time, so it won't necessarily be exactly what is happening in the modern story, because that's not the way that societies evolve. That's not what happens. You use different choices.
I clearly love the anthropomorphic characters. It's actually kind of what got me into Four Horsemen Studios to begin with. Even prior to Four Horsemen, one of my favorite figures that Eric has ever worked on is a figure called Poacher from the McFarlane Toys Total Chaos line. It's like an elephant warrior. It's also one of Eric's favorite sculptures he did during that part of his career. But those early Four Horsemen lines that you were looking at in the case earlier, the elephant figures, the Minotaur figures, love those so much. So to see us doing some of those here is really cool. But I also really was thrilled when Eric said he wanted to lean into kind of the Mesoamerican type feels for this character, and it influenced so much of Basilia, so much of the Serpent Spire Warrior, the Ninian, all of that carried right through it. So it's almost like a little, mini kind of group within the wave.
Yeah. And I mean, like everything else, when you get something really new like this, it's interesting to see how the customizing community is going to use these different parts. It's certainly, I know our friend Eric is in there, and he's he says he's done painting Medusa heads, or and
he said he's
going to be in high demand.
Yeah, exactly. Then this comes out, and everyone's like, "Here comes Medusa."
Yeah.
So reveal number 2, very much going alongside with Basilia, and it's funny because one of the things that I get to do is kind of drive the order that we're going to reveal these, and certainly not within a vacuum. Like everything, it goes through Eric to make sure that his vision is maintained and he agrees with this. But to start with Basilia, and really, I even said it in the live stream, to come out swinging with that first figure, and then to follow up that figure with another figure that's very similar. It felt to me that if we separated them, that they were stronger together.
I agree. Yeah.
If we would have separated them, it would have we would have gotten away from the snake, and then to come back to the snake, it would have been like, we've already seen
done
this,
that already.
but we're already in that mindset. So before we kind of change gears, let's do that. And I love, so we got the female in Basilia to come back with the male version here with the Serpent Spire Royal Guard. I thought was a really cool
and the
choice.
Paddle of Great Scorn.
Yep.
That's the
that's
Paddle
the fish.
of Great
Paddle
Scorn.
of Great Scorn.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna have to add that to the website.
But you look at, there are so many things on this figure that I'm excited to mess around with and see how they work, and to again see what other people do, because this looks like something that someone like you is going to harvest things off of for all kinds of different things. But up by itself, it just looks like such a menacing item, and the snake head sculpts are really, really good on these. They're really good. They're a bit frightening if you're not the biggest fan of snakes, but I think it was a good idea too. You get them together, and it did it. Even in my head, I went, "Oh, are we going to go all? Is this a serpent wave?"
Yeah.
So it kind of got my mind off of thinking about other things for a little while, which was to benefit with the things that would come.
So Eric Miller, I almost read your comment, because you're right. It is like creating a set list, but I got to the end of that comment and I'm like, oh, he's trolling me. So no, I'm not going to read it. One of the things I love that we're seeing in figures these days, and you see it a lot here, is Eric has really started to do so much more with removable accessories. In the early days of the line, we got none of that. Like everything was very modular, but it was, a hand was a hand, and you had the armor. You didn't have a lot of things. You had the belt. For years, that just plain brown belt. I did a video of different ways to use that belt. And it was a popular video. It's like, hey, if you crisscross them and use a bunch, you get kind of a checker pad.
You got overalls.
Yeah, and people were like, that's great. But now that we're seeing, even, I remember when Krotos came out and he had that satchel, it was like, just that little accessory was such a cool thing. So now that we're seeing a figure like this, where those bracelets come off, that kind of collar piece comes off, that headdress comes off. Not only does it give you the ability to kind of get a new look like we see here, kind of that totally stripped down, but I love that it's giving us these accessory items that we can use elsewhere.
It also looks like the tip of the tail comes off. That may not be a thing you're saying, but it sure looks like the tip of the tail is different than the tip of the other tail.
It is different.
So is that a removable piece, or is that
yes,
to be determined?
It'll be a removable piece. So they're different because
that's like a weapon almost.
Yes,
like
it is.
tail.
So the tail on this and the tail on Basilia is the same, the lower body.
Yeah.
The only difference is the top part has a different connector. So there's a 2.0 connector and a 1.0 connector. And then the tip of the tail is different.
Oh.
So the tip of the tail, that's something that I imagine, while ours is going to be bendy, I imagine that customizers are going to
So it's going to be like the chest plate or whatever. Yeah.
People are going to create little modular different tail tips to put there for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And one of the things that got pointed out in the show that might have been a little hard to explain in the chaos of everything going on is, that piece that you see that kind of curves down where it sets flat, that can be removed and you can see this extra piece here.
I don't know what that piece is. Yeah. I did.
So what that does is, say that, especially with Basilia, say that you want her to be in a flying pose.
Okay.
If we would have made that kind of L bend, like actually bendy, it wouldn't have really worked.
Yeah.
It would have been bad either way. It would have been hard to get it fully straight, but it also wouldn't have been strong enough to stand up. So that L curve is a removable piece that you pull out that part and you replace it with the straight one here, and you basically can position the tail in more of a flying position.
I see.
So it gives some flexibility for how you want to display these characters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And somebody, of course, is going to find a way to use that piece for something unusual.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Absolutely. But I mean, this too, it's cool to get, this very Mesoamerican style look here, but also to have the bear. I mean, even we've got the soft goods here, but those soft goods, those could easily be removed to get this even more stripped down. Those shoulder pad pieces, those could be down. So you very much can make a, more kind of bear serpent
legion
warrior.
of just serpents.
Yeah, just serpent warriors here.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things from a lore standpoint that was interesting is, so the Ninian that was released on Saturday. So, and let me actually bring that up real quick. I'm going to go there. So we can go. Oh, I can't find my mouse. There we go. I'm going to bring up the Ninian real quick, and we'll look at that. So this was similar to the Valiant Knight. This was a surprise drop that we did. Basically, people walked into the shop on Saturday
to the figure fair.
And the last table in the figure fair had a number of items that were very limited.
Yes.
We had a few Skeleton Legion builders, we had a few Valiant Knights, and we had this brand new figure, the Ninian.
I didn't tell anybody. Jeremy let me in very early to film, several hours before it opened, and I was like, "Oh, I can't tell anybody about this little table over here. I'm just going to keep it completely to myself." Because there's some cool stuff there, including this guy.
Quick question, someone asking, can we extend the tail part and shorten the section that is standing by adding the snake sections? Very likely you can. So some of those are articulated with just kind of ball connectors. And then there's a part as we get towards the end that is bendy. So the bendy part is going to be solid. So you can't add connectors to that, but you should be able
to. 2 connectors, like if you had 2 of them,
they should be able to.
So if you had 10, conceivably you
should be able to do that. Now, obviously, right now it's in prototype form. We have to wait and see what happens in engineering. But like we actually at the studio numbered them, 5, 4, 3, so we would know how to assemble it. But the connectors should be able to go, and I only know that because we actually misassembled one of them, and it went together. So
if our friend Kent Poole is in the chat or he watches this later, many years ago, Kent made it his mission to build the Marvel Legends stilt
Oh,
man.
yes.
He's taller than this house.
Yeah.
Truly, I
That's what he
saw
wants,
it. Yeah, he just kept getting more and more legs. I'm like, you're gonna have to build a snake.
Yeah.
Taller than the stilt man. You gotta break the record.
But so we dropped this figure, and this was one that obviously we had to have in production, so we worked it out earlier in the year to get it here on time. And this character actually has 2 legs. So one of the things I loved from a lore standpoint was we had to ask ourselves, well, why do some of these characters, it's a new race we call the Quado, why do some of them have legs and some of them not have legs? And the lore that we wrote is that, this 2-legged one is kind of potentially younger or certainly lower in the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
So as they evolve, and in the bio, we talk about the Royal Guards, which we see, the one we saw in the wave, or the High Mages, they shed their legs to instead have the fully serpentine tails.
So they become more serpent.
They become more serpent. Which, as soon as we wrote that bio, George contacts me and he says, well, I have a question. If you have a very young Quotal that really applies themselves and learns a lot and really elevates, can they shed their legs sooner? And I said, sure. Yeah, it's not just age, it's also knowledge and stuff. And he said, okay, then that means if you have a really old one that's super stupid, can they keep their legs? And that's what he was driving at. He wanted to ask me if an old snake man who's stupid can have 2 legs. And I said, yes, George, there can be old, stupid, 2-legged snake men. So there you go. That's apparently a possibility. That's canon.
Some sort of odd looking. All right.
So
LegionsCon 3037 exclusive.
So a couple deluxe figures, both Basilia and the Serpent Spire deluxe figures, really kind of starting strong with those here.
Yep.
That brought us into Reveal 3, which total swerve here. We've seen those. We've seen 2 Beast characters. So to then come up with this Afreet.
This is when it officially got where there were too many people in the room for me to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Because everybody was still there and going crazy and all that. And until after Gcon, I thought this was some sort of, because 2 snakes in a row, fire snake. And I'm upstairs and I'm filming a little bit about Gcon for my video, and I have the pictures up, and I went, oh, it's a genie. Oh, I'm stupid. I've been referring to this thing as did y'all see the snakes? The fire snake? And they're just looking at me like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, like the third one.
Well,
sure, no. Yeah, that one.
So
then I saw the lamp. I'm like, oh.
Well, I now want a fire snake.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in on the fire snake.
Like, I'm totally now like, why don't we have a fire snake?
I couldn't see, even me, I could not see what was happening on the screen, anything. I mean, it was so, the energy was frenetic at this point.
Yep.
After the snakes, yeah.
So, really interesting build here. This is something Eric had wanted to do for a while. He genuinely regretted not doing that smoky lower half for the Jin Talzar. So he wanted another shot at it. He wanted to do a brute scale figure. And he really, as I said, wanted to do that lower piece here. And I know that when I saw this, one of my first questions was, is it going to come with lower legs as well? Mm-hmm. And that was a debate. And do you remember when Marvel Legends did the Cannonball figure?
Absolutely, yes.
And that was a big debate, right?
Yes.
Where they were like, dude, this is awesome, but
them legs.
I might not always want to display Cannonball with that blast effect. The fact that it didn't have a pair of legs was a detriment. So, kind of learning from what we've seen others do right and what we've seen others do potentially wrong. That's why we said, like, I think we do have to throw in the lower legs there. It increases the cost of the figure a little bit, but it's a small amount, and I think it's certainly worthwhile to be able to do that.
Especially if that example, the footprint is similar. This is a very large footprint.
It is very big.
with the smoke effect, and not everybody has room for to have that along with other things. That's another one that's like, what is that effect going to be used for people? That I think is going to go crazy with some folks. Yeah, I really like it though. I really, when I finally got to look, it was a long time before I got close enough to that this diorama that everything was in stayed busy too. You could not easily walk up there. And when I really saw like all the different horns and everything in the head sculpt, I just completely kind of missed it because I couldn't see.
Yep.
It's like, I'll figure it out later. But I like this guy a lot.
Yeah,
he's cool... Apoxis. Was he Apoxis?
Yes, so he's going to be part of the Circle Apoxis, and he has a cool obviously we've got the cool weapons here, so new armor, new sword, and all that. But his was a bio that I was kind of a big fan of. We made him into a berserker, which is a new kind of role that we have. But the story outlines, and I imagine this, this was a character that was summoned by Poxus in that first age, and it's almost just like set loose. Like I really looked at that lower half almost as like a tornado. This is just like a fiery, torrent that's coming at characters on the battlefield. So again, weaving in different stuff. We've referred to the high mages before, both in the Ninian bio and in the Royal Guard bio, referring to a high mage here as the one who basically imprisoned this Ifrit character. But then I love that last part where it says, he was trapped in a lamp and it was in the secure vaults of Ophidian, but it's gone missing and really no one knows where it is.
This bio has a lot of to potentially be explored down the road. That's exciting.
Yeah. And that was, I will tell you, I almost wanted to detail who has it now, like who stole it out of the vaults of Ophidian. And you can probably all guess who I wanted to give it to, but I had to show some restraint there and kind of say, nope, I can't OP my boy over there. I'll hold that thread back. So,
but this is, we've talked in the past, and it jumps to a different reveal. But with the story book that is coming out, later on, you've talked a lot about these kinds of things that are story-driven plot mechanics that sometimes the story is going to beat the figure getting out because of the nature of manufacturing and production. And so this, like when I read this reveal, it's like, these are the kind of things that maybe this is more referring to things we'll learn about in a book one day, and I'm sure eventually an action figure of some form. But the story itself is something I'm interested to learn about.
So, a couple quick questions here. Alec is saying, what type of joint's the middle of the smoke piece? Is it a swivel or a ball? I actually don't really know. In prototype form, I'm terrified to even touch these things most of the time. So, to be totally frank, until the Gcon reveal, I didn't even realize there was an articulation point. I thought that entire smoky base was one piece.
Oh,
there is actually
near the middle there.
There is an articulation point. I believe it's a ball, but I'm not positive. So maybe when we get Joe Vassapolo on, he can answer that for us.
Do you know which figure? I know in the middle of Gcon, Eric said one of these. He had not seen it put together yet before Gcon. I remember Cornboy was talking about how a lot of these is the first time
seen together.
And even Eric's like, even I haven't seen
I think it might have been
I felt like it was maybe that.
I think it was Calzer, because I know that when it gets put together, it's so much larger than you expect. I think it was Calzer.
Yeah. We continually had the Joe moment where he would walk out.
Yeah.
And similar to the bear moment, and the thing would be much larger than what it looks like on the screen.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, yay, oh, yay. Like you hear the octave change.
This wave was very hard to convey size on screen for sure.
Yeah.
2D4 figure says, I assume Calzer could mount to the smoky lower half. Absolutely.
Any Brute, I guess, right?
Any Brute. I mean, any 1.0, because Brute and 1.0 have the same connecting ball. At one point, Eric wanted to release this in blue as well to go with Calzer, but it felt like it was a shoehorn into this wave that it didn't really fit in this wave. Like, because doing a weapons pack is more universal. To release a thing that only goes with one figure that's from a couple ways back.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll find a way to get it out, and we'll find a way to do something else to make it make sense, to have a little more universal usage. But absolutely Calzer would fit on it. And we certainly have plans to do a blue one to go with Calazar. So this is when I plan this stuff out. You know, I'm thinking, where are we going to get the pops? Like, where are we going to get the big wow moments? And when we do this reveal, I know that as soon as I advance the slide dub, we're going to see a new faction logo, one that we've only seen once before, and I'm sure people want to know more about. And that's, of course, this one right here. We've only seen this on the shield for Rhaegar.
Yep.
This is Aria the Talon Bearer. So brand new faction called the Sect of Arisius. And I don't know if anyone's noticed so far, but I've now added that information to Source Horseman. So under the factions, there is the Sect of Arisius, some information about that sect. So this is kind of a new, it's interesting because it's going backwards to the first age, but it's also setting us up for some of the stuff in the future. And we called this character, the working title along the way was the Dragon Cultist.
So I mean, you know, we've talked, or people have heard me. I felt fairly confident that of the large reveal that was going to happen at this show, for just the understanding the way logistics and business work.
Yep.
When this came out, I was 100% certain, because I said there is no way. I was sitting with Wade and Rob. I said there is no way if you put that sigil into canon and you release a dragon cultist with a little baby dragon with a dragon talon on the weapon, it's troll job at the highest level, and that's not what they are as an organization. Some organizations maybe, but there's no way. And so now it's like, all right, let's just watch this thing happen. Let's just watch it. And the non-beast figures, this is my favorite, but I mean, that's excluding quite a few.
Yeah.
This may be my favorite one. I mean, it might be recency bias, but so much of this is unique. I love this figure so much. Of course, being a dragon high fantasy guy, I mean, this is just right there for me. Loving, the kind of Eastern luck dragons, the Dragon Ball, this style of dragons, very, very. It makes me happy. This
is a cool one for me, because when Eric and I talk about this in advance, when he told me he's doing an Efreet, did I know exactly what it was going to look like? No, but I know what Efreets look like.
Yeah.
And when he showed me what he did, it was like, okay, that's an Efreet through the lens of Eric Treadaway.
Yeah.
When he said Dragon Cultist, I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like, that's not specific enough.
Yeah.
You can go in a million different directions. So there's not enough specificity in that initial description for me to form a mental picture.
Sure.
So it was really cool. Eric had a lot of fun with this. And again, when he started building it, he shows me a render, and this uses the armor found on Arizak. And
okay. Yeah.
Did you not even notice that?
No. Well, that's the overlay armor. Yeah.
Exactly. And he shows it to me and he says, do you think this is too much part reuse? I'm like, it's funny because I said that to him. I said, Eric, I don't think people are going to realize that's what that is.
Yeah, I did not.
Because it's presented in such a different way. I mean, but he made it a point in talking about this in the reveal special that the choice of colors, the choice of pattern on the loincloth, those are all from Arizak. So, we're starting to tie things together here. And this is, as we talked about, these different threads. But, as a figure, this is super exciting. When Eric showed this to me, he actually showed me the render without the dragon in it. He showed me the render with just Aria there and holding her talon. And then he was like, bang. And he did a reveal special on me. And then he showed me the dragon. And I mean, that right there, it's a very cool addition. I said at the show that I love little, character companion figures.
We need a dragon pack.
It's super cool.
I love it. Because I need one for just to play with.
Yeah.
And that stand is new too, right?
So it comes with the stand. So this will have the bendy dragon. It's got articulation on all of the limbs and articulation on the head, but you'll be able to bend it because, he imagines it kind of like almost wrapped around her.
That's, like a shawl type of thing. Yeah.
But one of the questions right out of the gate was, is this actually a dragon? And, we decided, no, it's not. This is not a baby dragon, because we already knew we were doing the dragon.
Sure.
We knew that we wanted to make dragons a bigger deal. From the beginning, I wanted to answer the question, why haven't we seen dragons yet? I didn't want it to just be like, oh no, dragons have been here the whole time. We just haven't talked about them.
Yeah.
They haven't been in the line in the first 10 years. There has to be a lore reason why we haven't seen them. So we decided that this was not a dragon, but it was a familiar.
Yeah.
And I really like the size of it and the feel of it. Everything felt right when we decided that it's a familiar that manifests based on their beliefs and their faith.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Arizak does have a connection to the dragon cult. If you go look on Source Horseman right now and looked up the sect of Aresius, I think you'd find that he's actually in that faction.
No.
So yeah, soft goods here. Once again, a real chain around the waist there. No second head, which was interesting. Eric loves putting those secondary heads in, but he wanted this particular figure to have some mystery, and keeping her fully masked is a way to do that, I think.
Yeah.
One thing I will point out is in these photos, you don't get a great close-up look of her face. There were some people taking photos at LegionsCon this weekend, almost like a macro view of her face, and to see all the scales and everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, all the things in this that have across the whole wave that have scales and texture.
Yeah.
Once you get it in hand or see close up, there's so much sculpt detail in a lot of those things.
Yeah.
Nice.
How many dragons exist in Mythos? That remains to be seen. Now,
at least one.
This next reveal, and certainly if there's anything else you want to talk about with these, we can slow up. But this next reveal, I think for a lot of people was a pretty big surprise. And it's interesting because I had said a few weeks ago that we're going to do something that the entire toy collecting world's going to be talking about. I said something verbose like that.
Yep.
Just in my excitement on Mythic Conversations one night. I was talking about the dragon. That's what was in my head. But Bill from Dorklair had suggested, or he had theorized, that what we would be doing was introducing new articulation. Of course, we did both.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think both of them have gone outside of our little bubble of existing Legionnaires to make some ripples in the wider toy community. So we started this introduction of this, version 3 body with Windaje the Cackler. Which is a figure that I love because it is once again an anthropomorphic character here. This kind of hyena warrior, but the big change that we talked about is taking the dragon aside just because of the articulation points in that are extreme because of the size of it. This is the most articulated figure we've done. It's the most posable figure we've done, yet this still maintains kind of that Legion style. Still is a Legion style
figure. Yep.
So, we said in the show, it's cool to see this finally get out there because it's something Eric's been working on for years. How do we add more range of motion to the figures? And I've said before, that phrase, I don't know if you've heard me say this, that my old boss used to say, a man who buys a drill doesn't want a drill, he wants a hole.
Yeah.
And I always think about that phrase, people don't necessarily want double joints. They want more range of motion. So with Valiant Knight, with Skeleton Legion Builder 2, we achieved that range of motion. But he didn't get what he wanted range of motion wise in the new Bear body on, say, Anubis or even the new Gaspar figure. So he kept pushing the envelope, kept trying to do new things. And that's where we came up with this version 3 body. So, this particular figure, Obviously, we've got the double knees and elbows.
Mhm.
We've got butterflies. We've got biceps. We've got mid-torso cut. Lot of different range of motion where for this particular affair, I think it's going to be great because
Yep.
you having them crouch and everything.
Yeah, crawling around.
Did this surprise you, Dub? The
Yeah,
fact that
yeah.
the introduction of this new body type.
Yeah, especially coming, pretty closely on the heels of improved articulation cuts that maintain specifically the aesthetic without the visible double joints. To have this come closely behind did surprise me, but I think also executed on the right type of figure, because you can't. I mean, certainly here in a straight up and down vanilla pose, that's the point of this is to demonstrate what it comes with.
Yes,
you can see them, but in almost any like they're completely gone.
Yep.
Like in almost any pose that you're going to have it in.
Yep.
It's going to be completely gone. And I agree with that that analogy. There are other, a lot of lines, and I collect import lines, especially where the truly hyper articulated. But if you don't know how to pose it, it doesn't look good at all. And you paid $100 for something that I think this is a good balance between both, where if you're like a lot of us, where you're just going to do some kind of moderate posing, and I like it like that, and I put it on my shelf, it's going to look great here. If you are somebody that really wants to put it to the limit, it's going to look great as well. So yeah, it was a surprise, but a pleasant surprise. I think it wasn't. I didn't want to see just the crazy articulation schemes that show up in a lot of things, because the sculpts are so good. You don't want to break that up.
And that's a big part of it. I mean, look, make no mistake. We all have seen the comments of people wanting us to add, more articulation, modern articulation and stuff. And dude, that's a valid request.
Sure.
Like, if that's important to you and you want it in the toy line, that's totally valid. What I would suggest is also acknowledge the fact that, okay, they are maintaining their sculpture, they're maintaining their paint apps. That's what's really important to them. But on our side, we're trying to do both. Like, we're trying to say, like, hey, I don't want it to be either or. I want to be able to get both. But I also, even beyond that, I want to be able to apply solutions differently. That's one of the things when a toy line only has, one way of doing it. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, if, every tool is a hammer, or every problem's a nail, every tool's a hammer. I can't remember what the phrase is, but if every figure you do follows the same scheme, the same pattern, that to me, you're not looking at that figure as a challenge and saying, like, what tools in my toolbox are best needed to execute
this one.
This.
That's that's actually, it makes me interested for, as the line progresses over the coming years, how the tools are selected. Because when you move away and you think about IP licensed properties out there in the world, if you really think about it, there are as many companies focusing more on aesthetic and sculpt, and there is a bunch going articulation, but there are a ton that focus on aesthetic and sculpt. And you go to a license like Marvel, you can find both.
Yeah.
But when there's like Mythic Legions is made one place, and so this does give the option to have certain figures that need or should a creature like this have a more enhanced articulation that we can put into place, and it doesn't ruin the sculpt.
Yeah,
great. And then something else that may need to go a different path, it can still go a different path in the same line for whatever you may need.
And I think that if articulation is important to you, I think these are going to be super fun figures.
Yeah.
I think you're really going to enjoy these, and I think you're going to be able to appreciate, like, oh wow, they found a way to add that range of motion that I really dig, but they've maintained their sculptural details, they've maintained the swappability, because that's what I think is important too.
Yes.
Is we didn't want to create a box and say, okay, this is the troll. The troll's a box. The troll doesn't work with anything else because of the nature of the size. The dragon is a box because it's a dragon. It doesn't work with a 1.0 figure because they're two totally different things.
Yeah.
With this, we didn't want to put it in a box. So someone was asking earlier, what parts here are going to be swappable? I've said before that, like, the upper arms what plugs into the torso, it's the same kind of adapter. So you can plug, regular 1.0 arms into this torso, or you can plug these arms into a 1.0 torso. There's going to still be a lot of swappability between the two of them. It's just, I think the analogy I used is, some 2.0 parts work with 1.0 figures and vice versa, but not everything. And this is going to be similar to that, where there's going to be some parts compatibility, but certain pieces are going to be only within the 3.0 compatible.
Well, if we think about the Armory experience, the way that those parts were broken down was torso, whole arms, whole legs. This would all be freely interchangeable at those master joints, right?
Yep.
So this torso could hold a 1.0
Yes.
arms and legs,
Yep.
and these arms and legs could go in a 1.0 torso.
Yep.
So, like, you could interchange this with the Armory.
Yep.
Conceive, that would work. So the more micro, right? Some of the forearms are a little harder, but the arms itself, you could do it with.
And even we've already been teasing some of this. So, for instance, you know how you started to see us do boot cut, Novian?
Yep.
Like, on Marley, I don't think if Marley has the boot cut. I don't think Marley has the boot cut. I think we've done it since Marley, but Novian for sure. That was done knowing we were going to do this. So you can actually, like on this figure here, like underneath that knee joint where that wrap is.
Yeah.
That's essentially where the boot cut is.
Yeah.
So you could pull that off underneath that knee and pop one of the 1.0 boots we have on there, and it would totally work.
Yeah.
So we've already been kind of setting the stage for this. And, ultimately, this is one of the things we wanted to do to try to see if it works.
Yep.
At the end of the day, we're checking out new things. We're trying to innovate. We're trying to bring new things into the line to appeal to, even more fans. We love the fans we have already, and we want to make really cool toys, but we also want to potentially do new ideas to see like, hey, we don't want to just do the same thing over and over. We want to try to innovate. So this is an experiment. We think it's going to be a lot of fun. We think it's going to be super cool. We think that once people have this in hand, they're going to have a lot of fun with them. But Eric said this weekend, because we did talk to some people this weekend that are diehard Legions fans, and they love Legions the way they are, including single joints. Hell, I love the single joints. Yeah. No one has argued that we don't need double joints harder than I have. But what I said to a couple people this weekend is like, hey, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to see how it works. I'm going to see how I enjoy it. I know I'm going to have the compatibility. I'm not losing a lot of that stuff. And Eric was talking to people, and he basically said, like, hey, we're trying this out. If it sucks, we'll go back.
Yeah, pivot away.
And it's not even we'll go back, because this isn't either or.
Yeah.
You look at this wave, there's a lot of single joints in this wave. Yep. We're trying some new things. So I think that's important.
And in recent waves, especially, working with CJ and that team, we have, some figures that are almost entirely covered in soft goods, where whatever the joint scheme is, it's completely hidden no matter what.
Yep.
So, some of those characters will benefit from this type of scheme too, without it being visible whatsoever.
Yep.
Which is cool. But beyond the joint scheme, look how cool the hyena dude is.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, he's also really lanky.
Yeah.
It's like proportionally, he's super, super lanky.
Yeah.
You know what is crazy though? So we haven't gotten to Leodas yet, but a number of people had pointed out the Lion King and the hyenas. I did not even see that. I did not even see the Lion King and the hyenas until I saw someone doing a meme about it. Totally over my head.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought the hyenas, I did connect that, but the only thing outside of Leodas was Aslan. When we got to that one, I just immediately Aslan.
Yep.
It shows where, what I grew up on.
So I like this one a lot. This is the last one we did, actually. So
really?
Yeah. So Eric finished this little behind the scenes about how ahead of the game we are at Four Horsemen Studios. This went down to the wire. It's amazing how often I think creatives work really, really great under pressure. I know there's a lot of people in the studio that work really, really great under pressure. This was finished painting on Friday, 1 week before Gcon. Jim drove it to Trevor's house on Saturday so Trevor could shoot it. Trevor got me the final photos on Tuesday, and the reveal was Friday.
There was something Trevor on his show last night. Somebody was asking him one of the things in the reveal. Did you compare it to this and this and this? He goes, guys, I had this thing for like an hour. And then I had to give it back. Like I didn't compare it to anything.
Yeah, this will be 12 figures per case. That's our standard figure pack.
Pack of cacklers.
Yeah, pack of cacklers. This is, I think, Eric's favorite in the wave. Recency bias aside,
Sure.
I think he had a lot of fun working on it. It's a creature, so
I feel like this is when you're going to buy quite a few of.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I mean, Leodas is my favorite in the wave as a single figure, but I probably need one Leodas. I don't.
Yeah.
It's such a iconic figure that
you're just going to need a bunch of those feet for all your colors.
This one I love though. So now that brings us to the Golden Pride of Leandor.
This one surprised me the most because we had just basically seen creature.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's just a dude.
And we had a non-creature in Aria, but she came with a creature and had creature motifs.
And I was thinking about the dragon.
And then
it's dragon.
And then you thought that the Ifrit was a fire snake. So
that's true. Yeah, I was way in the back.
So, a couple interesting things about this. This is another figure with a 3.0 build. I think that you see the joints on this one way more than the Cackler. The Cackler, because it's darker, it's lankier, it's fur, the joints are hidden. This is one that they're definitely more obvious here. And even talking to like a couple people this weekend, they kind of were like, oh, the Cackler looks fine to me, but this is the one that gave them reservation. And it was interesting because I was tracking the reaction online, and the reaction online was actually very positive, and the reaction at LegionsCon was a little more guarded.
It's interesting. We had that conversation. Look, you came up and asked me, what do you think about the joints on this? And I don't even think I responded at all right away, because in my head I'm processing like, am I missing something that I'm supposed to say? I was like, I don't see him. Looks like an action figure, because I do actually collect quite a few things that have double joints, and I think these look appropriate. On the Cackler, they are well hidden because of the nature of fur and the sculpt. These look like really well made, double jointed arms on a human action figure,
and they're going to look even better in production. One of the things that's interesting is when Joe's putting together these figures, there's times that he actually has to shave down little ppieces to actually get it to fit. So there's even an improvement that happens in production. And like you said earlier, you look at this character's arm, the way that it's just straight, it's the most obvious way that you're going to see that joint. If you pose this with any kind of dynamicism, when we look at this photo here,
please don't pose it straight up and down with this big shield and all these things that it has.
So you get, those joints start to get hidden a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, this is a perfect example of a figure that we think this is going to be a lot of fun to play with in hand. And it's just, every single bear arm figure we do isn't necessarily going to have these arms, but it's something we wanted to try for this particular figure. And this is one that I'm actually pretty excited to mess around with.
Yeah, me too. This is also one that you're going to get the amazing video where he has some crazy shot of this thing spearing down through the head of some great beast that's going to sell a bunch more.
Yep.
Because he's going to be able to do work. I love the lion helmet.
Yep.
It's beautiful. That is that a head or a helmet? Is that an alternate head or is that a slip over?
So it's actually, if you see this photo here, the way it works is the helmet part slips off that lion mask, because you can also slip it on the unhelmeted one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's what that one that's to the side of it with the flat
head. Yeah.
That replaces the.
So it functions like a hair piece.
Basically, yeah. As opposed to putting the helmet, like, the old Toy Biz Lord of the Rings figures that had like the rubbery helmets. Yes. Instead of trying to do that, this is what Eric thought was a better overall solution, to do the unhelmeted head, the unhelmeted or the maskless insert, and then the actual mask.
So that mask is its own piece.
Yes.
So I know, like Nate's in here and Thomas, we're going to see some really cool shots of people using that mask as a fallen, something. I look forward to seeing people use that too. I really like that. Because you need an army of lion guards.
Yep.
I personally do. I know. So a lot of that's new. Yeah, that's a different spear, right? Or at least from the original one.
The spear is that's the same spear that was introduced in the Necronominus wave.
Okay.
And the
not in our hands yet.
Not in our hands yet. The Gladius and the Scabbard were introduced in the Rising Suns wave.
Yes.
So a couple reused pieces, brand new shield.
Does that shield thing pop out?
It does.
Yeah.
Yep. So that shield, that little kind of embossed area, you could pop that out to put other pieces there as well.
Same pop out mechanic as on the newer shields that have the pop out.
I believe so. If it's exactly, I don't know if it's the exact same connection in there, but it's the same idea.
That's cool.
Yep. So again, a lot of different pieces for this. And, this is one, like, as I just said, that I'm excited to get it in hand. I'm excited to play with this. This is something that, we've wanted to do for a while, this kind of Legionnaire type character. And it's tough because, like, talking totally realistically, I mean, there's other companies that make, Zesray makes these type of figures.
Right.
And we, for a while, have like not done certain things we want to do, certain things that, I mean, we've actually had figures like in the works that we've held off on or changed, just because, I mean, you don't want to seem like you're chasing anybody.
Right.
Because we're not. You also don't want to inadvertently like hurt another company.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, they're putting something out. Let's give them a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you also have a business to run, and you also have to put out the things you want to put out. So at some point, you got to be like, okay, it's a Roman gladiator, like, a Roman centurion. Like, this is not like, this is from history. This is the kind of thing that we've done since the beginning. I mean, Vetus in the very first wave borrows from this. So, that's one of the things we're trying to do now as well, is understand that, like, hey, we've got to get some of these ideas out there. We want to find the right spot for them. But this is something that it was also nice to get it out, because it has been a while for us to, it's been in the drawing board for a while.
I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool figure. I think people are going to have a lot of fun with this. Writing this particular bio, referencing Atarius, which is the ancestor of Attila and Atlas, the first king of Leander. I had mentioned in the live stream, my first question to Eric is this Atarius? And, he decided, he said, nope, that's not Atarius. This is just, a soldier type character. But I will say that if you like this character, don't sleep on this one for sure, because you're going to see more figures like this. This is going to be kind of like we have with the Templars.
Okay.
You're going to see more within this style, so maybe some different colors, certainly some different heads and weapons and treatments. This is something, the Golden Pride and their commanders are something you're going to certainly
people
see
expect
more
to have battalions of these types of things.
Yep, you're going to see more.
That's cool.
So last figure that we revealed in the wave, and this got a bit of a surprise. When I bring up Reveal 7, and we're at like noon at this point, right? We're a little bit before noon.
Yeah.
And I said,
this is the last one.
So this is the final reveal in the Reign of the Beast wave. Like, there was a look, like people in the room were surprised.
Yeah. I went and got people that left. I was like, I don't know what's happening, but everybody should come back in.
Yeah, this is, something's going to happen here.
Yeah.
And people were surprised because I've been saying for weeks now, it is going to be different. This is a different kind of Gcon than we've ever done. And what I was referring to is we're not just saying, here's the wave, here's the all-in, we're done Gcon. There was a lot of other stuff to talk about. This kind of ended that first part of the reveal special before we moved into the second part. In the way we had to end, of course, was Leodas. Now,
outstanding picture that is.
And you've said that this is possibly your favorite.
This is my favorite reveal. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean it will be my favorite over the night whenever we get to the big boy, but I think it was my favorite reveal. Just whatever I thought Leodas would be, it wasn't this beautiful, majestic item that I need multiple of. I think because it comes nowhere close to capturing how big this thing is.
It's big. It's big.
Big.
Yeah, and I mean, we actually do have a picture here with the red shield soldier. So
it's wide too.
Yeah.
It's not just tall.
I mean, this doesn't capture it, but at least you can compare it to a 1.0 and see. Because when you first see this, you don't know that this is necessarily an ogre. There's so much new on this that you don't immediately recognize an ogre part and say, oh, that's clearly ogre scale because I know that part.
Yeah, right.
Even though those lower legs from the knee down, those are actually the lower legs from like Arachagor. But there's a new piece around. Eric sculpted a new piece that slips over the lowest part, and it actually changes up the look of it.
Like the cuff area?
The cuff area, yeah. But that's what those are. So there is actually one piece on here that does exist. That all being said, you look at this and you don't immediately understand the size. So to see that comparison, very, very helpful, I think.
I feel like this is also going to be a figure that's going to be ordered by folks that don't get deep into the lawn. They're just going to see big lion dude. Yeah, I want a big lion dude. All of the armor and I think the soft goods use is really unique here too. Like that loin piece with I don't know what you call that like the pinch. I don't feel like we've seen that kind of thing where there's a soft goods with another hard goods on the soft goods like that and change it up. I think that's the cape has to be huge on this thing.
CJ did a great job on this. I mean, I love when I saw the sculpting on this and I saw how Eric incorporated the motifs of the other beasts into his armor.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool. And there's even little subtle things like notice that the stag the dare, Xylona is next to the lion Leodas. That's because in our story, those are the two most distinctly different factions, and they're also the two factions that work the closest together. They're very much an anomaly, being so just different in every way, yet being neighbors and working together. So even his decision to tie those in together with the motif, I thought was very, very cool.
Yeah. That's again when I got closer to the diorama, I had these in these, and you can actually take in all of the sculpt work and the paint work that's on that. It truly, and the different heads on this, are options to display. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, the back. You see that?
It's like a whole pair of boxer shorts. Back there. It's huge.
It's big, and that hammer is absolutely gigantic.
Yeah, it's not just the hammer that we have already like that. It's like way bigger than that.
It's huge.
Way bigger than that.
And a lot of people ask,
it could be a hammer.
It could. And a lot of people asked, is it going to be hollow? Is it going to be solid? I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Those are all things that get decided during production. One thing we did point out is those extra faces you see here, they look like you could just use them as is, but we pointed out that that's just a prototype. To actually make this work, they had to put like little pegs on the front of the head for the crown to actually plug into. So you will need to display it with the crown.
So if a person's ever used an import figure with face plates that have a hair piece, it's like that.
And I mean, someone could just sand down those little nubs or cut those little nubs off, sand them, and paint them,
Absolutely, someone will.
and they could totally use it like
yes, yeah.
So there is definitely some possibilities there.
I mean, that the neutral face,
Mhm.
you could have someone take a macro zoomed in photo, and
Yeah.
you would think it is the MGM lion.
Yeah.
Like it's that good a sculpt, I think.
Well, even that, Eric deciding, we joked about Eric, Joe puts two things in the tray and, to give Eric a choice. And Eric's like, can we do both? Let's do both. This is another example, he knew he wanted to do Stoic. He knew he wanted to do a Roar, but he really just liked the idea of the Snarl.
Yeah.
And I honestly think the Snarl might be my favorite of the three faces. That's the one that was on display at LegionsCon. And it's that perfect mix of, it's not the full-on Roar, but it's got a little bit more, personality than you see here. A little bit more dynamicism than you see
and
here.
Familiar, if you've gone and seen a lion or watched a lion, like they do that snarl before, like the warning snarl before the full-on roar, so that you can see him with his army there, gritting his teeth, preparing for the battle charge when it's not time yet, but to let them come type of thing. I love it.
He's my favorite figure in the wave.
Roll Battle God.
Yeah, he's my favorite figure in the wave. Just, it's such a great complex figure, so long in coming. Definitely some new updates on here. CJ's team, they absolutely killed it with the soft goods. This is one of those figures that just feels like everything coming together. Capping off the wave.
The bio's great. I mean, it does. It feels like this is where the studio is at right now.
Yeah.
Like a great all-in. And I'm confident that the box art will be great.
Yeah.
Product photography was already iconic. The first one, really a good example of that.
So that brings us to the all-in. And every figure that we've just looked at right now, these are all available for pre-order right now at Store Horseman. That pre-order period ends actually end of December, which is a little bit different. The last few years we've pushed it into January, but they've been larger waves, because that's always the challenge. It's like, okay, this is right after Christmas time.
Yeah.
We have these conversations all the time because the longer we make pre-orders, the harder it is for us to squeeze other things in. We have a certain amount of releases that we need to do within a calendar year. And if we take, there was a point where we started, I think last year, we started the pre-order in, at the start of November, and it ended like January 18th or whatever. And it's like almost 3 months. It's almost a quarter of a year on one wave, And I've had this conversation with people where, if you end it in December or January, it's too soon. If you can't start it in November because it's too close to Christmas, it's like, there's always a reason. There's always something. You're going to take 6 months off the calendar.
Too close to Comic-Con.
Exactly. Exactly. So we just got to go forward. But the thing that we can do is try to provide the value. We had mentioned previously that pre-order discounts are now genuinely going to only be for pre-orders. So if you go and pick these up from us at a show in the future at retail or whatever, they'll all be at the retailer prices. So those, $40 figures will be $50, at shows and stuff. But the pre-order discount, if you buy all 70 of these waves, the all-in is $320. And we just did the quick calculation. It's $125 less than if you buy it at, retail or buy it from us down the road. We always say that we want people to make the purchasing decision that makes sense to them. But I always think that part of that is giving them the information so they can make that decision. And that's what this was about.
$45 a figure? Is that what that is? $280, $350? Around that?
Yeah. And
there's only like 5 of those figures are more than that.
Yeah.
Just by themselves.
So let's see.
I think that's right.
320 divided by 7. So 45.71. And that's an astute observation because, the
5 of them are $50 or more.
The Efreet, the Aria, both of the Snake Warriors
Yeah.
and Leodas are all. I mean, Leodas is an $80 figure.
Yeah.
So it really does kind of say $45 for each of these figures. That is a good price. And that again is only from Store Horseman during this pre-order period.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on the wave itself?
It's just a fun wave, and I do appreciate. I know a lot of us do these smaller. I mean, it's challenging when it's a $499, $500 to fit. That's hard. Mm-hmm. So having a smaller wave, I think, is appreciated by a lot of folks. But a wave like this that brings just so much new. Mm-hmm. For that price point, I think is excellent. So.
And it's funny because in the past we've done larger waves, and I know some people would probably say like, well, because they want to make more money and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, we do need to make business. Money. It is a business, but we've never added figures to a wave only to increase the price. It is always there's more ideas. I mean, we always cut ideas out of a wave. So it's trying to get all the ideas. It's almost like when we have a wave, because once again, there are only so many slots in the year. It's kind of like, well, if I'm going to take up a month and a half, 2 months for a wave, I want to maximize the output in it and get all these ideas out there. But, we need to show a little bit of restraint. We know that as well, rather than getting every idea we could out there. This was about kind of really narrowing the vision a little bit, making sure that every one of these figures brought something brand new to the table. And this gets me excited, and hopefully it gets other fans excited as a tease of what's going to come in the future, where this line is heading in terms of new body styles, new parts, new kinds of characters and factions and all that.
So a question that I know you want to answer, but I'm going to ask anyway for people. Reign of the Beast. This doesn't have all of the beasts, and we've gotten used to this kind of predictable TikTok every Gcon. But also, you had a little teaser on Curtis and Jesse's show about set sail with us. That phrasing does not necessarily line up with.
Sure,
those are different. The new world of mythos and all those things. So, is it possible that we're going to see more of these kinds of waves in the middle of the year versus at Gcon?
Yeah,
which I know you're just going to say anything is possible, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask.
Well, I mean, one thing we did announce after this is we brought this lineup, so because we knew, I mean, I intentionally said, hey, Eric, we've now released all 4 of the beasts. And it's funny because I knew I was going to bring this lineup, and there was someone in the crowd that kind of yelled, yeah, but the other 2 were impossible to find.
It was the cackler.
He
made his way into the crowd.
And he was not a plant, but I would have gotten to that point, but the fact that he voiced that, I mean, just really set me up to be able to bring up this slide. So, we did announce that we understand that Aetheron and Xylona are very hard to find. So we are going to do version 2s, rather than just reissuing. Those are 2 figures that Eric wants another crack at. Absolutely wants to do them again. We know that the fan base wants access to them, so we're actually going to do that.
So is it acceptable then if I take the Aetheron that's back over my shoulder there with me so that I can have, well, since when the version 2 will come.
We'll talk about it.
It's very intriguing, that slide, because of the previous reveal. The Leodas makes you go, if he wants another crack, what is this going to be?
Exactly. So, Dub, it is now 9:30, and there's a number of things we didn't cover. So what I think we should do is maybe just talk a little bit about the big reveal, talk a little bit about the dragon, and then some of the other stuff like the book projects, the role-playing game, Infinite Legions, and even Legacies with the Otho 2 reveal. Leave those for another night. We'll catch back up and cover all of those. Does that sound good?
That works.
But we can't leave tonight without...
How many slides?
I know.
It's such an eventful weekend.
We can't leave tonight without revealing, the stuff that we talked about. And, it was cool for me to reveal kind of this piece here. setting up the lore, one of the things we talked about was that this is the map of Mythos we've known for 10 years. And what we are going to discover is, not only have we been looking at Mythos almost through a keyhole, but the characters in Mythos have been living in a world without necessarily realizing that there is a much wider world out there. Now, we've teased this.
Yeah.
Zende references coming from the shores beyond Mythos. Scapular has a unicorn that comes from beyond Mythos. So there have been hints, but we were able to then transition to this slide that Nate kind of expanded for us.
He got a really big reaction too.
It did get a really big reaction, where you now see that the realm of Mythos is actually a very small little piece of this much larger world. And that got a big reaction, and it kind of really opens up this realm of possibilities, as I said, to new creatures, new races, new factions, new locations. These are all elements that are going to be part of this next wave, this next not wave so much, but this next phase of Mythic Legions.
It was interesting hearing all the different things that got yelled out too. Oh, water, ice, like all the everything, every possible thing you could hear was yelled out. That was fun.
Yeah, and that's what's exciting, because it's like I feel like we've almost become comfortable in Mythos. Like, we know what to expect, we know what the kinds of characters are, and immediately when we expand like this, anything's possible.
Yeah.
And of course, then to move into the final, or basically the final reveal, culminating on all these requests over the year. We bring up the name Baeth there, and then boom. And I mean, the way this was revealed, we spent a lot of time talking through how we were going to do this, because there was a logistical challenge. Joe Vassapolo couldn't walk out holding the dragon the way he held Bodvar the bear. And Joe was very concerned about wheeling it. Like, at one point, we actually had aspirations to hide it in the other room and to have Joe wheel it down the aisle, which...
Oh, from the back?
Which, in retrospect, we didn't know the room was going to be that packed.
It was not going to happen.
It was impossible. Because...
Excuse me.
By the time we got to this, the room was packed again.
Yeah.
It was wall-to-wall people.
It was astute fan base. Like, we suddenly started to see the whole studio walk in. I was like, come on, we gotta go in.
Everyone's coming in, and it's like, oh, something's going down.
Like, Sherry just walked with a purpose back into the room that is with intent. Let's see what this is.
So what we did was, if we had the banners behind us and we had pipe and drape behind that, Eric and I got up, moved the banners, and then we pushed the drapes aside. And it was funny because they started pushing the case with the dragon in it forward. And it was almost like a crescendo, where the front of the room saw it first and they exploded. But in the back of the room, people couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But once it got further along and everyone saw what it actually was, the whole room kind of erupted.
It was like Price is Right. It was like the thing of a new car.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like, and it did. It swept over.
Yep.
But it was also, the celebrations, but also, like, in my yard, sitting by Pete, and we were just like, that is big. That is awesome looking. Like, it was almost like a stunned even expecting it.
Yeah.
A stunned reaction of how much better it is than what anyone, I think, thought it could be, truly.
And it's right from the beginning, going back to what we all joke about with Corn Boy saying, I want to do a dragon, I want to do a 3-foot dragon. I remember when Eric first started this earlier in the year, he called me and he said, what does that mean? You said, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do we want?
3 feet what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What measurement is 3 feet? And I said, it doesn't matter. If one of them measures 3 feet, we can say that we did what we said we were going to do. And it's hysterical that at that early stage, we were like, which one are we going to make 3 feet? Is it even realistic that any of them is 3 feet?
Yeah.
And when all is said and done, there's a way you can display this and it's almost 6 feet.
Wow.
So it got, but again, we let the project dictate the size in a way. I've seen some comments, people saying that we should have done it smaller. And I mean, reality wise, is there are people that don't buy horses because they're too big for displays. There's no size we could have done this that would have made it easy to put in any collection. We wanted this, after all this time, to be a no compromise crowning achievement of an action figure, and that's what Eric created.
The truest in the world of action figures, and the anniversaries and all the speculation and Cornboy's words in all these years.
Mm-hmm.
It really was go big or go home. Don't do it. Like, do it the way it's supposed to be done, or don't do it at all. And I think that's the right. I mean, you look at this when this picture went up.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't actually.
No, you actually even have to look pretty closely to see the articulation points. It looks like the thing you see at big conventions and a random dragon fantasy artwork. It's in an. I can't imagine how hard that picture was to get in frame and take, but it photographs so beautifully. And then when they were immediately outside, that's what it looks like. This is not Trevor's a master photographer. This is not a trick of the lens, a trick of the editing. It looks amazing in person.
My son came to LegionsCon this weekend. I mean, my son Jacob has seen photos of the dragon all along. I've been showing him, progress photos. So he was well aware. When he came down that hallway at LegionsCon and got to that case, he laughed. Like, he involuntarily just let out a laugh. And he looked at it and he said, that is so much bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Which, that is true. Is like, as amazing as this looks, when you see this thing in person, it is just gargantuan. It is so big. Now, the pose that we have it in, because this is pretty much how it was posed at the show.
Yeah, like on the rock.
On the rock. I love the pose, and it almost makes it look like a statue, because it is really so dynamic and so majestic looking that it almost looks like a just giant statue, but it is a fully articulated 50 plus points of articulation.
It was Pete. I said, is that a 5 POA? Like, it looks like it has no articulation. And then you get close and go, oh, it's just so carefully hidden in there.
Yep. It's 50 points of articulation.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, Chris is texting me, probably telling me to. Oh, so Chris is logging into StreamYard from the hotel because they're doing this, and I told him he can't go live while I do it. But that's okay, because he needs the login info to do it, and we're still streaming, so he'll have to wait. We're almost done, Chris. 50 points of articulation. I mean, a ton in the tail, a ton in the legs. One of the things that we did on Sunday was we actually brought out a prototype. So this is already at the factory. They're already in the process of, kind of engineering this. So we actually had a pre-production model.
That's so cool to see.
Yeah, that we were able to pose around and show people how the wing works.
Yeah.
Darius has
put a video up.
A very cool video of me talking. I mean, this was literally Eric and I. This is what you get at LegionsCon. This was Eric and I in the lobby in front of the Dragon display cases with a table that just had a prototype on it that we were just moving around and playing with and answering questions right there.
It was not for sale either. I attempted.
You attempted.
Not for sale.
But that type of availability and accessibility
we got away from talking about LegionsCon itself. Take that for granted. You can walk right up to any of the studio.
Any of the studio.
Especially Eric, who I can understand. To some people it might be, it's hard to talk to. He is there to talk to you. That's what he's there for.
Absolutely.
And he loves it.
Yep.
Even for me sometimes, like I don't want to bother him, and he's coming up to me and, oh, it's good to see you. I'm like, I know you're a busy man.
Yep.
Yeah, that was really cool to see. And he was standing over it so happy.
Yeah.
That everybody was so happy. That was great to see.
So, I mean, it's a huge beast. You look at the size here. This is with the tail curved. It's still 31 inches, 22 inches to the top of the wings. I mean, it is massive. And part of that size makes it a difficult figure to produce. So, we had said at the show that the idea for this right now, we're still working this out. We obviously wanted to reveal this at Gcon. Right now, the plan is that this is going to be a campaign style pre-order. It says January 2025. That's the plan right now. It might adjust slightly, but as of right now, we're still looking at January.
Early 2025 at some point.
Certainly early 2025. I mean, it goes without saying that we need to hit a minimum order number to actually produce this, But I mean, realistically, you and I talked about this earlier. Any pre-order has to hit a certain number. If you put a pre-order up and it sells way too low to make it feasible to produce it, you're going to have to cancel it and say, we just can't take the hit on this. But this, we're being very clear up front that we know people have said they want this. We need to make sure that it's feasible to do. So right now, we haven't released a price. We're trying to work with the factory to determine what that pricing is going to be. What I said all weekend at the con that I'll repeat here is I've seen some people saying $650 to $700. It's going to be well under that. I've also seen some people saying $200. It's going to be well more than that. So exactly where it falls in that range, that's still what we're trying to determine.
And that's information that you plan to release once.
100%.
Yeah, it's not going to be on day one.
So
people can save and budget appropriately.
No, we want, as soon as we know, we'll convey that.
Yeah.
Right now we're figuring out, I mean, one of the simple things we need to, not simple, but one of the things we need to figure out is like materials. Like our trolls are rotocast bodies with injection molded heads, hands, and feet.
Mm-hmm.
How much of this can be rotocast? How much of this needs to be injection molded? Rotocast is cheaper in terms of tooling. It's cheaper to produce. So we're trying to figure out exactly how to make this and engineer it to make it most affordable. Mm-hmm. One thing I said at the show, and I think I might have said this in Dee's video, is the things we won't compromise on are the size. We're not going to make it smaller to save money. We're not going to compromise on the sculptural details. We're not going to compromise on the paint. So what you see in these photos, what you saw at the show, that's what you're going to get. We're just going to compromise on, or I shouldn't even say compromise. It's not a compromise. We're going to work with how it's engineered in some of the materials if there's potentially some improvements or savings there.
And I mean, I don't work for the studio, so I can't say this 100%, but I feel pretty confident that the reason we don't know a price is because the team is actively trying to get it as affordable as possible.
That's it.
That's the only reason.
Yep. Absolutely.
Let's drive it down. Let's drive it down, but present exactly what we want to present.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at all of our pricing and people routinely will say like, wow, that's less expensive than I thought it was going to be. That's important to us. We've said before that we don't have shareholders, so we can price things without having to worry about maximizing every dollar. These are not licensed IP, so it's not like we're like, well, we've got to cover all of the IP costs. Jim has long said that what we don't pay for licensing, we throw right back into the toys, whether it's in more stuff or in lower prices. This is an example of that as well, is, we could go up there and we could put it up with a really high price tag and know that we can hit it. But we're trying to figure out, like, how can we make this so everybody
want as many collections as possible.
Exactly.
Every swig needs a dragon.
Yep, every swig needs a dragon. Yes. This is the accessory kit. So Eric had all these ideas. These are actually the larger wings. This is a secondary head. So I do need to take pictures because a number of people had asked about like this head here. It's got the open mouth. This is the primary head. What you're seeing here is the base model. That head, that jaw is articulated. So I don't have a photo of it, but you can fully.
It was demonstrated though on the model.
You can fully close that jaw, whereas this head here is full. Because Eric wanted to sculpt like, really the expressive fire-breathing type look. Extra wings, a couple neck pieces, big flame breath. this is what will be in the accessory kit. And this is the one that when you really extend it, you get that 70 inches. Yeah, it's nuts. And I mean, this I think is the photo that most illustrates the size of this monster. You know, seeing it next to those horses that I just mentioned, some people think are too big.
It needs to be a the old Nintendo Powers, a fold out poster in one of the materials of some sort. Put this on your wall. It's awesome.
But more news about this, including, because it's a campaign, potential stretch goals. So we've got a bunch of stretch goals that we're looking at. Yes, guys, including the base, seeing if the base is something that could be potentially an add-on for this as well, for those that want that, like that rocky base that we had at the display.
I felt like we saw a few things that could be some potential teaser materials sitting around there.
There was so in the case with this one, there were some of those kind of crispy skeletons and stuff, and a lot of people suggested they'd love to see those. So there's certainly some ideas out there. More news on that as we have it. But one thing that I'll leave everyone with to just kind of be excited for, Brad Treadaway, who was at the show all weekend. You met Brad taking video and photos all weekend. He's put together a 25-minute documentary called Birth of the Dragon. Now, I've seen the first cut of this documentary, and it's wonderful. Like, if you like behind the scenes stuff, if you like how it's made type stuff, this is an absolutely fascinating documentary about the creation of this particular figure. We're putting the finishing touches on it right now. I think at this point we're hoping to maybe release it next week.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so if you're having those post LegionsCon blues and you kind of need to get back into that mindset,
once you watch Big Dub's videos, of course.
Yes.
Plenty of those.
Of course. Plenty of those. This will get you there as well.
Is that going to come out on the YouTube channel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll put it out on the YouTube channel. And of course, we'll put teasers and everything and maybe little snippets and stuff.
That's exciting.
It's very cool. It's cool because it's like nothing we've ever done.
I think I even just said to someone, I was like, Brad has filmed a lot of stuff. I don't think I've seen any of it. Like, where's that going? I want to see some of these moments. That's especially exciting. I know he has to have captured a lot of really cool moments.
He did get a lot of cool stuff this weekend. And having him on staff now is really cool. It's allowing us, you saw the videos for Frankenstein. For the skeleton. So having the combination of Trevor doing these photos, Brad doing some of these videos, it's really just allowing us to create more content. And this one in particular, I'm super, super excited.
That's great. That's great.
So, Dub, any last thoughts? Like I said, we'll cover all the other stuff on another show, but any last thoughts on the things that we've kind of talked about today?
Yeah, I mean, we talked for a long time. And it was almost all about the stuff, and we all know the show is not about the stuff at all.
Yep.
Which just tells you what a great weekend was. No, I think it was a great reveal. I think the team did a good job. The wow factors were there. The emotional moments were also there.
Yep.
And what I did appreciate was it was all well merchandised, if that's the right word, where you, no matter what, you could come see all these things that had just been revealed very easily.
Yep.
And then bringing out the test shot, showing the articulation, having that for something that big, I think was a really special touch.
Yeah, for sure.
For those that got to be there. And, of course, Dee, and I know other people filmed some things with that, so it's all up there.
Yeah.
It was really fun. It was a good time. There had to be a dragon.
There had to be.
The
tough part now is everyone asking, like, what do you do next year?
Where's the 5-headed dragon?
What do you do next year to follow up? And, I mean, well, it's an interesting conundrum because you can't go bigger.
No, not bigger in terms of physical.
You just can't. No. So you kind of have to ask yourselves, like, okay, if we can't go bigger, how do we still make an impact that gets people talking, that gets people excited without it necessarily just being like this kind of epic
I believe
dragon?
You already have quite a few things in mind. I'm sure that are, often when a thing goes really big, then it shifts down and becomes laser focused on something else. I'm looking forward to that, even though it's a year away.
It's a year away. So we will get there soon enough. In the meantime, thank you, Dub, for joining me tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Everyone that came to hang out with us at LegionsCon this weekend. As I said, check out the Big Bad Toy Store right now. If you missed out on those figures, check that out there. We'll cover more on Mythic Week. So much to cover. I think next week I might actually have Eric Treadaway on because there were so many questions that were asked during the live stream at LegionsCon. We couldn't get to all of them. So I think we might actually have Eric on. We might just do a Q&A and just knock out a bunch of questions from the community.
That sounds fun.
That'll be good. And then you and I, the good thing is a lot of those other reveals like the role-playing game and legacies.
I'm excited to talk about those things.
Yeah. But none of those are happening like now. Those are all
some evergreen conversations.
Those are all 2025, so we can get back to those in a few weeks. And
comic book
and cover the comic book. Absolutely, a lot of great stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's a great time to be involved in this community.
I mean, we did 2.5 hours tonight, and we literally got through the wave and half the reveals. Essentially,
and we've been together for all day. We've been talking. So it just shows how good it is.
Awesome. With that, everyone, I will see you next week. Remember, Reign of the Beasts available right now at storehorseman.com. Have a good weekend. Oh, and it's not going.